Good afternoon, everybody. This is Steve Fletcher with the Trumpet for My People. I would like to take a few minutes to talk to you about Yom Kippur, how to prepare for the Day of Atonement, and I want to share some important items with you about what we are looking at as far as the calendar goes and the times that we will be preparing and watching. The first thing I would like to do is bring your attention to the two places in the Bible that you should study very carefully. Leviticus chapter 23, starting in verse 23, all the way down to verse 32. Leviticus 23, verses 23 through 32. This talks about the seventh month, the memorial blowing of trumpets on the first day of the seventh month, and then it talks about the 10th day of the seventh month in verse 27. Also on the 10th day of the seventh month there shall be a day of atonement. It shall be a holy convocation. You shall afflict your souls and offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord. You shall do no work in that same day, for it is a day of atonement, to make an atonement for you before the Lord your God. For whatsoever soul it be that shall not be afflicted in that same day, he shall be cut off from among his people. And whatsoever soul it be that doeth any work in that same day, the same soul will I destroy among his people. Ye shall do no work. It shall be a statute forever throughout your generations, in all your dwellings. It shall be unto you a Sabbath of rest, and ye shall afflict your souls in the 9th day of the month at even. From even unto even shall ye celebrate your Sabbath. So I want to address what it says here, that it's from the 9th day in the evening, unto the evening of the next day, and I want to address why it says that, and I want to bring to your attention before I get into that, and I'll talk about that when we look at the calendars. But we notice here when it talks about the Day of Atonement, there's no trumpet mentioned. But this is in a normal year, the trumpets are blown on the Feast of Trumpets, and there's no trumpet mentioned on the Day of Atonement. But when we go to Leviticus chapter 25, and we start reading in verse 8, Thou shalt number 7 Sabbaths of years unto thee, 7 times 7 years. In the space of 7 Sabbaths of years shall be unto you 49 years. Then shalt thou cause the trumpet of the Jubilee to sound on the 10th day of the 7th month. In the Day of Atonement shall ye make the trumpet sound throughout all your land. So we see the trumpet of Jubilee on the Day of Atonement in the Jubilee year. So this is a very important day, especially in the year of Jubilee. The Day of Atonement is a very, very special occasion. Okay, and so if we look at the calendar, starting in the month of Tishri, the first day of Tishri, this calendar is confirmed by the new moon sighting in Israel on September 21st. Yom Teruah, the Day of Trumpets, the first day of the 7th month was Yom Teruah. And so then we come to the 10th day, which is September 30th to October 1st, from sunset to sunset. But that verse said that from the 9th day we afflict our souls until the evening of the 10th day. So what that means, and this is the reason why a Yom Kippur fast or a Yom Kippur affliction, a time of affliction where it says it's an afflicting of our souls, it lasts for 25 hours. And that means that 1 hour before sunset, it's still on September 30th. The 9th day of the month is September 30th, but it's 1 hour, and this 9th day ends at sunset. So if we're going to start on the evening of the 9th, it's 1 hour before. Okay, so are you following me? This is it's a 25-hour fast from 1 hour before sunset on the 9th day of the month until sunset on the 10th day of the month. So let's look at what this will be, and I just share this with you from, just so that we can be on top of what we are looking at and what we are expecting. The Day of Atonement times from September 30th to October 1st, 2017. Israel's sunset on September 30th. I found this here at time and date, Jerusalem sunset. This is the 29th of the month, but if we go down here, then we'll see on the 30th, here's the time, 6:25 p.m. is sunset. And so the Day of Atonement then would begin 1 hour before that. September 30th, 5:25 p.m. in Israel. That's Tishri 9, according to Leviticus 23:32, in the evening on the 9th day. So that's 1 hour before. Then it would end on October 1st at 6:24 p.m. 6:24 p.m. So this takes into consideration 25 hours to afflict our souls, which would include fasting. I would say stick with what the Word says. Ask the Lord what He would ask of you and what He would want you to do specifically. I've shared with you what it says in Leviticus 23, Leviticus 25. I don't want to add anything to that. Just follow what the Word says. Follow what the Word says. Remember, this is an ordinance that was set up for all generations. This is the only day that the Lord commands us to afflict our souls. It's basically an obligatory fast, but afflicting your souls. So some people go, they don't drink water or food for 25 hours. But like I said, let's just stick with the Word on that. And so I wanted to share this with you. As far as USA times, then, September 30th, it begins at 9:25 in the morning. It ends at 10:24 in the morning on October 1st. Okay, and when Moses came down from the mountain, it was at the end of the day. The second time he came down from the mountain, it was at the end of the day, on the Day of Atonement, where he came down from the mountain, and the Day of Atonement ended. And the custom in Israel is that at the end of the day, then there is the great trumpet blast at the end of the day on the Day of Atonement. So I don't know if we could be expecting the trumpet blast to be at the beginning of the day. I would say it's probably most likely to be at the end of the day. So that would coincide with, in Israel, 6:24 p.m. and in the United States at 10:24 a.m. Okay, and I want to share this article with you, but I just wanted to share this with you guys. I was very happy to find this. I was doing some searching on Yom Kippur, and I found that on the Watchmen on the Wall forum, starting on September 19th, because I I was sharing about the Day of Atonement from about the 12th or 13th of September. I saw that the Revelation 12 sign on September 23rd was definitely not going to be the rapture event, that the sign appearing on September 23rd put that on the second day of Tishri. The Feast of Trumpets is a one-day feast. And so I started talking about that, and I'm glad that starting on September 19th here in this forum, they took my question that I had on my Facebook page. What will really happen on September 23rd? How can we see the Day of Atonement as the key day as it relates to all the major signs we have seen over the last 40 days? What does the Bible clearly say? Here is the truth you may hear nowhere else. The Jubilee trumpet shall sound on the Day of Atonement, September 30th, 2017. And they started talking about this on the forum on the 19th of September. So I'm really thankful that the Lord used me in a way to get people to really be looking at this Jubilee year, especially right now in the Jubilee year, the importance of Yom Kippur. So this is a very good article right here, and I'll leave the links for you in the description box, but I want to read a little bit of this. Yom Kippur comes just 10 days after Rosh Hashanah. It is regarded as a day for doing serious business with heaven. It is a day of judgment, but it is also a day of atonement. On the biblical calendar, the 10th day of the 7th month is the appointment known as Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur means Day of Atonement. The Day of Atonement is the holiest day of the biblical year. It is a day of intense prayer, fasting, and calling out to God for mercy and grace. It is a day for doing business with God. It is a day for coming face to face with God. Judgment Day. Yom Kippur comes just 10 days after Rosh Hashanah. 10 days prior to Yom Kippur, the Torah commands us to blow the shofar on Rosh Hashanah. One of the reasons for blowing the shofar is a warning that a period of judgment has begun. According to Jewish tradition, the gates of heaven swing open on Rosh Hashanah. The heavenly court is convened on Rosh Hashanah. The books of judgment opened on Rosh Hashanah. The heavenly ledgers are scrutinized on Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah begins a period of 10 days of judgment. The 10 days end with the conclusion of Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement. On Yom Kippur, the judgment is sealed. The books are closed. The gavel falls. Every human being is inscribed either in the book of life or the book of death. One last long shofar sounds at the end of the day as the gates of heaven swing shut and close. The weight and solemnity of the high holiday judgment is well expressed in the following medieval prayer. Let us now relate the power of this day's holiness, for it is awesome and frightening. On it your kingship will be exalted. Your throne will be firmed with loving kindness, and you will sit upon it in truth. You alone are the one who judges, proves, knows, and bears witness, who writes and seals, counts and calculates, who remembers all that was forgotten. You will open the book of records. It will read itself, and everyone's signature is in it. The great shofar will be sounded, and a still, thin sound will be heard. Angels will hasten. A trembling and terror will seize them, and they will say, Behold, it is the day of judgment, to muster the heavenly host for judgment, for they cannot be vindicated in your eyes in judgment. All mankind will pass before you like members of the flock, like a shepherd pasturing his flock, making sheep pass under his staff. So shall you cause to pass, count, calculate and consider the soul of all the living, and you shall apportion the fixed needs of all your creatures and inscribe their verdict. On the Feast of Trumpets will be inscribed, and on the Day of Atonement will be sealed. How many will pass from earth, and how many will be created? Who will rest and who will wander? Who will live and who will die? Clearly, the Day of Atonement is regarded as a day for doing serious business with heaven. It is a day of fasting and pouring out entreaty, a day of prayer and cry for forgiveness. It is a day of judgment, but it is also a day of atonement. What is atonement? In discussing the Day of Atonement, it is helpful to accurately define the word atonement. Contrary to popular Christian teaching, atonement does not mean forgiveness of sin, though forgiveness may be an aspect of atonement. It is from the Hebrew word kafar, which means covering. The sense in which the word is used is as a covering protection from danger. The idea is that God is dangerous. If common, mortal, finite, and sinful man is to enter the presence of the holy, immortal, infinite, and righteous God, the man must be covered or atoned for, or he will be consumed and destroyed by the presence of God. Moses and atonement. Another example of the need for atonement is found in the story of Moses and the golden calf. After Israel sinned by making the golden calf, Moses ascended Mount Sinai to interceding for them. God was ready to destroy Israel. He was unwilling to even let his presence be among them. He said, I will send an angel with Israel, but I cannot go with you, or I might break out against you and destroy you. Because of the sin of the calf, Israel found herself unprotected. She has no covering. She is in danger from the presence of God. But Moses says to Israel, perhaps I can make atonement for your sin. He fasts for 40 days and nights and then goes back to the mountain with the 2 new tablets. The 2 tablets are meant to replace the ones he broke when he saw the calf. He goes back up the mountain, back up into the presence of God. On the mountain, Moses implores God for mercy and requests to be shown all of God's glory, face to face. God replies that no man can see his face and live. Moses would be consumed by God's glory. Instead, God offers to cover Moses with his hand, hiding him in the cleft of the rock, while God passes by and declares the full meaning of his name. He offers to tell Moses exactly who he is. He offers to reveal to Moses his essential person. And he passed in front of Moses, proclaiming, the Lord, the compassionate and gracious God, slow to anger, abounding in love and faithfulness, maintaining love to thousands, and forgiving wickedness, rebellion, and sin. Yet he does not leave the guilty unpunished. He punishes the children and their children for the sin of the fathers to the 3rd and 4th generation. I want to read this last paragraph in this second portion, the second coming of Moses. The picture of Moses in his second coming is startlingly messianic. On Moses' first trip down the mountain out of the presence of God, the tablets were broken. Like Messiah himself, the word was broken for the sin of the people. After this initial descent down the mountain, Moses returned to the God. He went back into the very presence of God to make atonement, to effect a new covenant, to reveal the true and essential person of God. He was able to reveal the full extent of God's mercy and grace. These things accomplished, he then returned, bearing the new covenant in his arms. He came down from the Father in splendor, in glory, in brilliance, terrible to behold. It was the Day of Atonement. So I pray you guys are all ready. I pray we are all ready for this great and terrible day. It is a day of atonement. It is also a day of judgment. This final Jubilee trumpet on the Day of Atonement. And we have shared over the last years about the need to be prepared at all times to live our lives ready for the coming of Christ. And now we have come, and we are coming to the time that the written Word of God reveals the final trumpet of Jubilee on the Day of Atonement. And all I can say is we all need to be ready. We need to be ready. So I pray you guys are all blessed, and that we can prepare accordingly for this great and final Day of Atonement. God bless you.